The A's were one of the franchises of the 70s, but by 1980 they were completely in disrepair. Their nickname was the Triple A's, or the Oakland Pathetics. They were drawing almost nothing. They literally have crowds of 1,200 people at games.
There were nights when they'd say there were 4,000 people here, and you like our 3,000 in the bathroom.
The A's were almost a perfect landing spot for Billy Martin in February of 1980, a club that needed a shock to their system. Just a few miles from where Billy had grown up, and they were also owned by another larger-than-life figure.
Charlie Finley knew that he was a good manager, and he knew that he won wherever he went. He also knew he'd be good for the gate, whether it was winning or fighting with the players in the dugout. I mean, he could guarantee entertainment.
From the start of 1980, Billy made an impact on a team that was suddenly exciting and unpredictable.
He had a genius for pulling out a play to manufacture runs. Like he'd hit and run with a guy on first that couldn't run and a guy at the plate that would strike out. It's the worst combination. How does he get away with that, you know?
He might go, he is going! Here's the pitch! It gets away! And Murphy is stolen home!
We played the small ball. We went out and we squeezed, we hit him runs, we stole. We did creative stuff with Billy at the beginning, and then we got the habit of knowing how to win.
The A's took over second place in the American League West, going 23-11 since the All-Star break.
The team won, and the crowds started to grow.
The A's are following Martin's formula to perfection, playing the kind of baseball that drives opponents crazy with frustration and fans crazy with love.
Fans come out because they like to see exciting, winning baseball. Whether we win or lose, they go home, they say, well, it's not exciting. It isn't a dog game where they just sit down and if you win, fine. If you don't, fine too.
And here he comes, he's heading for the plate. He's safe at the plate.
They started stealing home a lot. And he had a bunch of deceptive double steals. I remember, I said, Billy, I have no clue about that double steal. He said, well, I tell you, hang with me tonight. And if you're hanging and I know that you're seriously hanging, yeah, I'll give them to you. So about 2 in the morning, he said, all right, you're still here. So he gave me like 6 of his favorite double steal tricks. He told me about the left-hander with a real slow pickoff move. And he says, what you do is you have the guy on first, make him get off enough to where the guy thinks he can pick him off. And once you do that, the guy on third breaks, because by the time he throws to first, the home's safe. Wrote it down. It's a true story. We're in Comiskey Park. Britt Burns, big, tall, 6'4", you know, that guy. First and third, you know, I'm there, I'm like looking at Billy, you know, and I mean, thinking all of a sudden I see the guy at first, kind of look like he's running. And I caught it, I said, oh no. And by the time, before I could yell, no, Burns goes like this, picks off to first, the guy comes third, steps on home without even a throw. And I'm yelling, no. I went to the top step, took my hat off, and tipped it to Billy. And he tipped it back, you know. It's just genius.
Billy's A's finished second in the AL West in 1980, going from 54 wins to 83. And then they came out storming in 81.
The record for the best start in the history of Major League Baseball was broken today. The Oakland A's became the first team ever to win their first 11 games of the season. The team that was baseball's worst 2 years ago has become baseball's best, an exciting brand of baseball known as Billy Ball.
They call it Billy Ball.
Billy Ball. Billy Ball.
Can't beat old Billy Ball.
Billy Ball is invented. Everything out there is Billy Ball. Every billboard, all the T-shirts, everything was Billy Ball, Billy Ball, Billy Ball. There was a frenzy out there.
The A's did a whole marketing campaign called Billy Ball, and Billy himself starred in the commercials.
And I suppose you came out here just to sit in your hands.
No.
Okay.
The guy comes up to the ticket booth to buy a ticket, and who's behind the counter selling him the ticket but Billy? And he won't give the guy the ticket until the guy impresses him that he's going to cheer louder.
Let's hear some chatter.
Way to watch him, Tony.
Come on.
This guy's got nothing, Tony. Make him pitch to you. That's not an arm. That's a noodle. That's a...
We'll give you a tryout.
It was a fun year with all the Billy Ball. We doubled our attendance. I really believe Billy saved the franchise for Oakland.
Billy Ball. It's a different brand of baseball.
Last year, the Kansas City Royals were the champions of the American League, the cream of the crop. the Yankee Killers. This year, with no personnel changes, they are doormats with the worst record in the American League. Gordon Docking tries to find out why.
The Kansas City Royals got off to the worst start in the team's history, falling more than 10 games below 500 for the first time since 1972. The defending American League champs have also been spending time in the Western Division cellar.
Obviously, we're not pitching well enough, not enough clutch pitching, clutch hitting, clutch fielding, you know, you name it, it's not there.
It seems like the nights that we get good pitching, we don't get the hitting. We get the hitting, we don't get the pitching. To be a successful ball club, as we know and as we've been in the past, what we have to do is get them both together on the same nights.
I think the big blame is the hitting, and I'm just as much at fault as everybody else. I'm not driving in the runs I did last year. I'm not getting on base. I'm not hitting for the average, and it's very frustrating.
George Brett, last year's best hitter in baseball with a .390 batting average and 118 RBIs this year, has driven in only 3. And 1980's Fireman of the Year Dan Quisenberry is not fooling many batters this year with his submarine delivery.
No one on this team's having fun right now. No one likes to lose games. I'm sure the fans are tired of us losing, but more tired of us losing are ourselves. We're a good ball club. We know we're a good ball club, and we should win our division, but we're just trying too damn hard right now.
With Kansas City's talent, there is little doubt that they will turn things around. But it will take a dramatic comeback for the Royals to catch Oakland in the West. Gordon Docking for NBC News, Kansas City.
In the American League West, the hot hand moved to the Oakland A's, winner of 5 straight, thanks to the wages of Billy Ball. Should the A's win twice, they'll still play again in a playoff, but Billy Martin isn't about to cry over split milk.
Well, I think we deserved it because we were that much ahead of everybody else. But that doesn't necessarily mean we'll go right into the World Series. I'd like to win the second half, too.
So Oakland keeps reaching for the heights in this macabre season. And in left field, one man continues to outrun just about everyone and everything, Rickey Henderson. Also still on target, the long baller Tony Armas, who's hitting close to 400 with men in scoring position. Armas raised his homer total to 17 and grabbed the RBI lead with 53. One glaring weakness in Oakland's Kitty Core pitching staff had been the bullpen, but Bob Ochinko helped it come out of the shade. Ochinko was A-OK, leading the league in ERA. And leading the league in complete games is Rick Langford, who keeps the bullpen in the bullpen. Langford shut out the Orioles for his 13th complete game of the season and 41st in his last 48 starts. Other starters like Matt Keogh with an 8-3 record keep making Oakland's pitching statistics the classiest in the majors. Yes, sir. Seems like the A's intend to graduate with honors in the American League West, whether first semester or second semester. As for last year's champion Kansas City Royals, they've had a tough time contending for either pennant, first or second. Manager Jim Fry, who must have wanted to chew out his guys more than once this year, met up with the New York Yankee Ball Club, which the Royals had swept away in the championship series less than a year ago. Both clubs had struggled of late, but the Royals got the early jump in the opener of a 3-game series in New York. Yankee killer Larry Gura continued his hypnotic spell over New York's sleeping bats with a 3-hit shutout for his 7th victory of the season. But after that, playing the defending champion Royals seemed like silly kid stuff for the Yankees. KC made more than its share of misappropriations. Catch this royal headache. Willie Wilson takes it on the bean. And Larry Milburn takes advantage. Milburn's first homer. Compliments of Kansas City. Given 5 runs, Rick Royschel pitched 6 trimmed shutout innings for his first win in pinstripes. And given 8 runs the next day, Ron Guidry pitched 7 shutout innings for his 8th victory. In 3 second season starts, Guidry hasn't allowed a run. But overall, the early second season had been a whitewash for both New York and Kansas City.
In the AL West, the Royals had started the first half of the year terribly at 9-22. But with fresh optimism when the season restarted, the defending AL champs replaced manager Jim Fry in late August with Dick Hauser.
I like the ball club. That's one reason I'm here. Every club has some problem, but I think all you have to do is look to what they did last year. And most of those players are still here, and you can see that's a good ball club.
The thing that Dick Hauser brought to our ball club was a no-panic type attitude, a guy who really felt like regardless of what the circumstances were, that we could overcome it. And I think that when you show that kind of confidence, players respond to that.
Sure enough, the Royals got hot, winning 6 of their last 8 to seize first place and set up an AL West divisional playoff with first-half champ Oakland.
Get off to a blazing start. Lead the American League West before the players' strike under Billy Martin in his second year, declared first-half champion. The Royals stagger in the early season, but after the strike, go on to win the second half, fire Jim Fry in August, led into the playoffs by Dick Hauser. It has, without doubt, been baseball's most bizarre season. The players' strike, of course, necessitating the split season. And there is the way they finished in the American League West first half. Oakland up on top after a blazing start. They won their first 11 games and 17 of their first 18. And look where Kansas City finished in the first half, 12 games back. Then, following the strike, with new life, Kansas City 7 games over 500. And Oakland winding up in second place, already, of course, having clinched a playoff berth. If you were to have combined the standings this season, that's the way they would have finished. Oakland would have won it. They would have indeed been in the playoffs. Texas would have finished second. And Kansas City would have been 11 games back and on their way home for a winter vacation today. Temperature in the 60s at Royal Stadium in Kansas City. I welcome you here. Al Michaels reporting. I'll have the play-by-play during the course of this series for you. And, of course, lest it be said, it has been a terribly dispiriting day because of the tragedy in Cairo earlier. And if events dictate or warrant throughout the course of the next couple of hours, we will be returning to ABC News for any further information for you. But you have tuned in to watch baseball, and that is what we will be bringing you from Kansas City as Oakland takes on Kansas City best of 5, the winner to advance to meet the winner of the Milwaukee-New York series that begins tomorrow night here on ABC. The A's, of course, a miraculous situation. Just 2 years ago, they lost 108 games. They were a moribund franchise, terrible record on the field, and off the field, nobody cared. It looked like the franchise would be moved. Then last year, Charlie Finley sold the team, new ownership. Billy Martin had taken over at the outset of the 1980 season, and Martin, the miracle man, has done it again. Here are the A's in the playoffs. As far as Kansas City is concerned, as we detailed just moments ago, the Royals a staggering start under Jim Fry in his second season. Then the strike, then the new beginning. Fry fired, Hauser took over, and here's Kansas City now for the second year in a row with a chance to go back to the World Series. We'll return to Royal Stadium in KC right after this. We're delighted again to be joined for postseason commentary by the man who won 3 Cy Young Awards. I say one, he has a chance, of course, since he's still active, to win a 4th, and 8 times he's been a 20-game winner. Jim Palmer, the right-hander of the Baltimore Orioles, will be analyzing this series. And as you take a look at these two teams, do you favor one over the other in this set?
Well, I think I might favor Kansas City only because there's such an experienced ball club. They've been in the playoffs 5 out of the last 6 years, and they're probably playing the best ball of the year right now. Oakland, on the other half, they started out winning 17 of their first 18 games. And since then, they've only played 2 games over 500. If you can stop Ricky Henderson, I think you can beat Oakland. And I think the only thing that's really not working in the Royals' behalf right now is the fact that Larry Gurr had to pitch Sunday, and they will not be able to use their 2 best pitchers 4 times in this series.
Some outstanding individuals, some fellows who are right up among the league leaders on both teams individually. Let's have a look at the Royals and the A's. The man who puts the Oakland attack in motion is the leadoff hitter. Left fielder Ricky Henderson batted .319 and will get a lot of votes for American League MVP this year.
The American League best base runner. If the Royals expect to win, they're going to have to keep him off the base.
Ricky led the American League in steals this season with 56. As far as power is concerned, the cleanup man Tony Armas tied for the league lead in home runs with 22. Second at Baltimore's Eddie Murray in RBIs with 76.
The A's most dangerous hitter, the guy that I would pitch around.
And strong defensively. Great arm in right field, Tony Armas. In center, young Dwayne Murphy, 15 home runs, and led the league in game-winning runs batted in with 15.
The best center fielder in the American League has a great ability to go back on the ball.
Dwayne Murphy, the Oakland outfield. Another strength for the A's, their starting pitching, Steve McCaddy, 114. Rick Langford, 112. And today's starting pitcher, 12-game winner Mike Norris, struggled in the second half, however, and recently incurred the wrath of manager Billy Martin.
Can you relate the circumstances the last couple of weeks involving Mike Norris, the fact you had named him to start the playoffs, he did have his problems, you came out in the paper, at least publicly, and said, well, maybe he wouldn't start if he really didn't get his act together. Then all of a sudden things worked out. What happened over the past couple of weeks with Mike?
Well, you have to know Mike. I did those things to get him mad. You know, the best way to get to a person, if you can't get them another way, is get through their pride and their ego. So I put those things in the paper so he can read them. And I found out he can read well. And so the next day he pitched well. And just a little common sense is all it is, Al.
Among those Mike Norris will face today, Royals third baseman George Brett. Last year's American League batting champion hit .390. This year, .314.
The consummate all-around player. For the Royals to win, he's going to have a good series.
Willie Wilson, the Kansas City left fielder and leadoff hitter, had a miserable first half. Even had problems like this in New York in the second half. But basically, a fine climax to the season for Willie Wilson, helping to turn things around in the second half for the Royals with plays like this.
Also, the man that makes their offense go. If he gets on, the rest of the hitters are much better.
For power, they look to first baseman Willie Aikens. Led the club in home runs, only man in double figures with 17.
Well, this is what he does best. He makes you throw strikes, and when you do, this is what happens.
The Royals can put some runs on the board, and when you talk about pitching, if they have the lead, it's Dan Quisenberry coming out of the bullpen. He had 18 saves. Larry Gurra, a fine second half. And on the mound today, in game number 1, right-hander Dennis Leonard.
Well, their best pitchers won more games in the American League than any pitcher since 1975. The guy I'd like to have out there in a big game.
And Leonard has concluded his warm-ups. He's walking in from the bullpen. Mike Norris on the left, the starting pitcher for the A's. The American League West Series getting underway in a moment. The Royals have taken the field, and defensively, as we cut around the Kansas City infield, Willie Aikens will be at first base. At second base, a man who had another fine year with the glove. You know what he can do, Frank White. At shortstop, U.L. Washington. Another good season, at least defensively, though he did struggle enormously at the plate. George Brett around at third for Kansas City. In the outfield, Willie Wilson, a resurgent second half, is in left. In center field, Amos Otis. When the season began, they had Otis in left and Wilson in center. That lasted only a couple of weeks, however. And Clint Hurdle around in right. Back of the plate for the defending American League champions, John Wathan does the catching. And on the mound for Kansas City, right-hander Dennis Leonard. Finished strongly, 113 overall this season. Led the league in innings pitched. The only man over the 200 figure in the truncated season. The batting order for the A's today, Ricky Henderson leading off in left and Dwayne Murphy in center. A bit of a surprise in that the rookie Keith Drumright is in there as a DH. Armas bats clean up, then Gross, Spencer, Mike Heath doing the catching. Dave McKay at second, and the shortstop, Fred Stanley. So an extra tier of playoffs for the first time ever in baseball, and we get underway here, Game 1 in Kansas City, best of 5. The first 2 to be played here. Game 3, and then 4 and 5, if necessary, out west. And here we go as Ricky Henderson takes a strike, 0-1. Henderson led the league this season in runs, hits, and stolen bases. Breaking pitch missing inside.
And I think the way Leonard's going to pitch to Henderson is he said he's had a lot of success with breaking balls. And Henderson's up there to try to make Leonard throw as many pitches as he can.
Henderson hitting a fly ball to center field. Otis flipping the shades down. This is a spacious park until Amos makes the catch on a ball hit around 390 feet. The umpires today, and they're working with 6. George Maloney back of the plate. Joe Brinkman at first. Steve Palermo at second. Don Denkinger will be at third. Jim Evans working the line in left. And Jim McKean in right. You'll recall there was some controversy as of a couple of weeks ago as to whether they would go with 4 or 6 umpires in the divisional series. And the umps won that battle. Wayne Murphy, the batter, fouling it away. 0-1. Dennis Leonard, remarkably consistent, Jim, in that he is the type of pitcher a manager knows he can count on to go out there and not miss a turn. And Dennis has been relatively injury-free and has been able to make it to the mound almost every start over the past 6 years.
He had some problems in '79, but I think he's won more games than any right-handed in baseball since 1975. So he goes out there when you need him, and he's the type of guy you want out there in a big game.
Murphy lining it into left center field for a base hit. Otis over to cut it off. Murphy taking the turn and holding with a single. So the first hit of the game belongs to the A's. And that brings up Keith Drumright. That graphic a moment ago illustrated something significant. Leonard facing the A's twice this season and shutting them out on both occasions. The last shutout, in fact, came here on Friday night.
I think really, Al, that makes it a little bit more difficult to come back in that short time span and pitch as well. I know that a lot of times you'll have back-to-back series during the year, and if you happen to beat a club, it seems they get a little bit more up for the next game. So Leonard does have his work cut out.
Keith Drumright, the designated hitter, as Leonard drives Murphy back. Drumright is a rookie. The A's, for the most part, have been going with Cliff Johnson as the DH against both lefties and righties. In the last week, with Oakland facing so many righties, Drumright was the starting DH with Johnson on the bench. And I know a lot of the A's were surprised today, even though Keith did play over the last week of the regular season, that he would be in today instead of the veteran Johnson.
Well, he beat us a couple games early in the season before the strike, but Jim Spencer, who was first baseman for the A's, says he may be the best 2-strike hitter that he's ever seen, but he has 5 game-winning RBIs this year in limited action. But the thing you miss with Cliff Johnson out of the lineup is the fact that he has 17 home runs. And today, maybe Billy looked at the wind. The wind's blowing strongly to right field, and I doubt if he has much of a chance for a right-hander to hit a ball out of here today.
Leonard with Murphy on his mind. Henderson, of course, is their top base-stealing threat. Murphy, though, has good speed. Wayne this season, with 10 steals, was second on the club to Ricky. Ground ball to the right side. Could be 2. White to Washington for 1. And back to Aiken. Double play. Oakland gone in the first inning. No runs to hit and nobody left. After a half, the A's nothing and the Royals coming up. The A's defensively, Jim Spencer, who came over from the Yankees in the deal that sent Dave Revering to New York, is at first base. At second base, Dave McKay. He has won that job. Had a very good month of September. Fred Stanley is the shortstop. He and Rob Piccolo alternate on a basically daily basis. It's Stanley getting the start today. And at third base, where they platoon, it is Wayne Gross getting the start today. We should see Mickey Klutz against left-handed pitching. In the outfield, which many consider to be the best in baseball overall, Ricky Henderson is in left field. In center field, a man who covers as much ground as any center fielder in the bigs, Dwayne Murphy. And around and right, you think about his offensive stats, but he has a tremendous arm, Tony Armas. They have made this season the spectacular play seem very routine. Mike Heath, back of the plate, unheralded, but a man who has been quite instrumental in the A's success. And Mike Norris on the mound. Willie Wilson to lead off, and Frank White, George Brett, Aikens the cleanup hitter, Otis bats 5th, McRae, Hurdle batting 7th, Watson 8th, UL Washington hitting 9th. Willie Wilson to lead things off. Those his combined figures. Willie hit .332 in the second half. Takes outside. And Wilson in his last 33 games hit .361. Tries to bunt his way on and fouls it back into the seats. Norris with great success against Willie in their prior confrontations. Gross in very shallow at third. 2-1 the count. Wilson popping it up. Stanley shielding his eyes from a tough stunt and makes the catch and staggered under it. High sky. Not a cloud in the sky today, and very breezy, wind blowing left to right. As you look around Royal Stadium, 3:30, and then it moves off to the alleys where it's 385 and 410 to straightaway center field. Symmetrical park, tartan turf, and a quick surface here in Kansas City.
Well, it's a great park to pitch in. If you can throw fly balls here and keep them out towards the power alleys, they have the kind of outfield that can run under them.
Frank White with 1 out, bases empty, tries to check his swing and can't, and the count is 0-1. As you can see, White finished the regular season with a flourish. A regular season, of course, that did not end for Kansas City until yesterday. They had to play 1 game in Cleveland to help determine the second half champion. Norris knocking it down, losing his glove, and Michael won the Gold Glove last year. Shows you why. Matter of fact, it was Norris who broke Jim Palmer's streak. Palmer had won the award 4 years running, and Norris took the honors away in 1980. We'll see it again.
Well, I think here you'll see a low, looks like a low screwball, right back at him. He plays it off his knee, I think, but he has great reflexes and recovers to throw him out. I think what you try to do on the ball back to you, if it's hit real hard, you try to get out of the way, but otherwise you try to get something in front of it, and I think he stopped that ball with his leg.
2 down, bases empty. George Brett, hot over the better part of the last week. Finished the season at .314, and of course everything is relative, so people say, what's wrong with George?
Well, I talked to George. He said he hasn't been very consistent this year, and I guess after you hit .390, it's tough to live up to those kind of statistics, but he said he just been swinging a lot of first balls and not really concentrating as well as he could.
Inside, and the count 2-0. The distractions, of course, last season, plus he had a very busy offseason.
I think the fact that the ball club as a whole did not play well until really the middle of the second half.
2-0 pitch to Brett. Slow bouncer to the right side. McKay charging and throwing on the run and getting it. Norris setting KC down 1-2-3. We go to the second inning at Royal Stadium. A's nothing, Royals nothing in game 1. Second inning at Royal Stadium in Kansas City. Temperature in the 60s today. Breeze blowing from left to right. Crosswind. No score, and Tony Armas to lead off in the second. Look to the strike. 0-1. We'll look at the breeze. Right now it's died down just a bit. We've had some gusts in which the winds have made the flag stand almost stiff. 0-2 the count.
Armas is the type of guy that you just saw on the monitor. You could see a slider low and away. He doesn't hit that pitch, but if you make a mistake with the same pitch, get it up in the strike zone, the ball has a great chance of going out of the ballpark. And he hurt Baltimore all year. Hit 5 home runs in his last 5 games.
0-2 pitch, got him swinging. So Armas, who led the league in strikeouts this season, going down 115 times, that's more than once a game, becomes Leonard's first victim here in the second inning.
Wayne Gross.
1 out, and Wayne Gross, the batter. Gross hit just .206 this year. Decent power. 10 home runs, 31 runs batted in. The A's have an interesting mix when you look at their lineup. Henderson, Murphy, Armas, their key guys, batting 1, 2, 4. A rookie today in the 3 spot as the DH, and then it really tails off as you get down to spots 5 through 9. But Gross hits a high fly ball to right field. Hit it too high for the wind to make any difference here in terms of distance, and Hurdle has a lot of room. Wind is blowing in that direction today.
Batting 6.
And there are 2 down.
Number 12, Jim Spencer, first base.
Jim Spencer. Dennis Leonard starting game 1. There's an off day in this series, so we could see Leonard again if we go to game 4 and if necessary 5. 1-1.
Right there you saw the type of pitch that Jim Spencer has great difficulty handling, and that's the high fastball. Both he and Gross, they have no idea why they had off seasons at the plate. Jim thought maybe the fact that he was really, I think earlier in the year he was traded to Pittsburgh for Jason Thompson, ended up going to Oakland. He said he had a great deal of difficulty concentrating this season.
1-1 pitch is hit high in the air to right center field. White is going out. Frank is underneath it and makes the catch for the second time. Leonard has an easy inning. He's gone in order through an inning and a half. No score. Bottom of the second inning. Willie Aikens to lead things off, and Amos Otis and Hal McRae. Mike Norris working for the A's. Set the Royals down in order in the first inning. In for a strike.
And there's Mike Norris's screwball. Mike had such a great year last year, 22-9, statistically the best year of any American League pitcher, that people now, there's another screwball, they think he's going too much to the screwball, not challenging the hitters with his fastball. And I talked to Mike Keith before the game, and he said the last game which Mike pitched, which was 3-0 shutout, he went back to the fastball, and I think everybody's happy.
That was against Toronto last week in Oakland. Missing outside here. 1-2 the count. Dick Hauser. It's so odd to sit in this booth, and we were here almost a year ago today and saw Hauser's profile, of course, in a Yankee uniform, guiding the Yanks to the top, and then down they went in 3 to Kansas City in the league playoffs. 2-2.
Dick Hauser had a home run off me in 1965. Then he retired, became a coach.
He didn't hit many in his career.
No, that's my point.
2-2 pitch to Willie Aikens. Line drive to left center field. That one will be in the gap, but cut off by Henderson, who gets it back in. First hit for the Royals, a solid single by Willie Aikens, who, of course, had a tremendous World Series last year. So he has, along with Amos Otis, become the Royals version of Mr. October.
Well, here you're going to see a high fastball, which is the pitch to get Willie out with, but maybe not 2-2. You just can't throw it as hard because you don't want to walk him, and he can go to right field as well as he can to left.
Aikens at first base, nobody out, no score. Bottom of the second inning, and Amos Otis. Hit 269. 9 homers, 57 runs batted in. Gross is shallow at third as Otis takes up and in, ball 1. 1-0. Look at Gross, who's moving back now a couple of steps, and the alignment of the A's infield. The 2-2 pitch, bouncing ball, left side, Gross going to McKay for 1, and Dave turns it over, and Spencer stays on the bag with a great stretch. So Oakland pulling off a double play. Each team has turned 1 in the first 2 innings.
And here you'll see a low screwball. The ball goes down. Amos hits the top half over to Gross. Not too good a throw, but Jim Spencer, who's one of the finest fielders, won innumerable Gold Gloves at that position, makes a nice play.
2 down. Base is empty, and the designated hitter, Hal McRae. 272 his mark for the regular season. 1-0. Hal wasn't particularly pleased with the year he had. He'll be pleased with that one, though, as Ricky Henderson will have to go into the corner. Maybe not. He won't. The wind holding it up. Looks like he got good wood on it, but it stays in by plenty. McRae is gone after 2. Nothing. Can you figure out what that is? Well, now you can as we pull back. Our director, Ken Faust, gets the whole scoreboard in view. In center field here at Kansas City as we go to the 3rd inning. Baseball's postseason. getting underway. Game 1, the A's against the Royals. Game 2 here tomorrow afternoon. Thursday, a day off in this series. And then play resumes in Oakland Friday for Game 3. No score, third inning. Mike Heath, the batter. And Dennis Leonard missing low for a ball. 1-0. 2-0 pitch. Bouncing ball to the left side. UL Washington throws him out. One away in the third inning. Dave McKay coming up.
Number 39. Dave McKay.
Dave McKay, switch hitter, a natural right-handed batter who taught himself to hit left-handed. Here's a man who had been moved around. Billy Martin does a lot of juggling in his infield. His outfield is intact, but juggles his infield, and even in the catching spot, with Jeff Newman seeing a lot of action, he juggles back there. But McKay has helped to make the infield a bit more solid with his performance in the month of September. He has become, at least for now, the everyday Oakland second baseman. Fouling it away. You can see the month that McKay had, batting .394 in his last 19 games. He has surprising power. He only had 4 home runs this season, but every one of the 4 was a bomb, just a cannon shot.
Well, he's basically a fastball hitter, and you have to throw him breaking balls to get him out. And there was a low slider.
And Aiken will do it himself to take care of Dave McKay. 2 down in the third inning. And up comes Fred Stanley.
Shortstop.
What Martin has done at shortstop all season long is play Fred Stanley one day and Rob Piccolo the next. That has been the pattern.
You look at Fred Stanley's stats, and they don't really look very good, but if you're a smart manager like Martin is, you realize that Fred Stanley's never going to hurt you in the field.
Stanley flying out to Hurdle. Another quick inning for Dennis Leonard through 2.5. It's Oakland nothing and Kansas City nothing. An interesting breakdown of the fortunes of the Royals right there. As you can see, 11 under 500 with Jim Fry, 8 over with Dick Hauser. I spoke with Hauser before the game. People are crediting you with turning things around here in Kansas City, replacing Jim Fry in late August, saying that the club is more aggressive. Do you feel that that is indeed true? And what specifically have you instituted in your reign here?
Well, you win with good players. This is a good ball club. No, I don't think that's true. I'd like to be able to take the credit for it, but managers don't win games. The ball players win the ball games. I think you have to put your team in a position to win. I just made up my mind when I decided to take this ball club that one thing I had observed over the years that they did and did very well. They were very aggressive on the bases. They like to run. They like that style of play, but you have to get on base to do that, and we've done that so far.
Dick Hauser, the manager of the Royals, as Clint Hurdle starts the bottom of the third inning by taking a pitch up high, and the count 1-0. Hauser, of course, had sat out the season until taking the job here on the 31st of August. 2-0 now on Hurdle. Dick, after spending 1 year as the Yankee manager, let go there, went back to his home in Tallahassee, Florida. He had some opportunities to perhaps manage at the beginning of the 1981 season. Some clubs were interested in Dick, but decided he wanted to think about it. Remained at home and decided it was the right place and the right time to come back. The Royals have made it to the playoffs now 5 times in the last 6 seasons, missing only 1979. 3-1 the count. You can see the shoulder shrug by Maloney, the plate umpire, as if he thought briefly about calling it a strike, and Norris, after looking in at George, accepts the call, and the count 3-1. Hurdle gets aboard, and Hurdle fires his bat away as he heads down to first base.
But the only thing that's going to do is incite the fans, because this is the count 3-1. Mike Norris is trying to throw a strike. The ball just happens to go inside.
A glance at Norris.
And 0-2, 1-2, you might want to come inside, but not certainly to walk a guy.
The Hurdle is on, and John Watson is the batter. Up there to bunt, and lays one down the first baseline. Spencer lets it roll, and it goes foul. Alertly judging the path of the bunt down the first baseline, and it's a strike, 0-1.
I think that's a good play, Al, because if you're sitting in the dugout and you're the manager and you're looking at your pitcher, Dennis Leonard, you can tell by now he's got command of all his pitches. And this is going to be a low-scoring game, I would imagine, and I think that he probably wants to get out on top.
Watson trying to move Hurdle along. UL Washington is on deck. Around the bunt again, they pitch out, but nothing is happening. And the count 1-1. Lays one down again. Norris will go to second, but the throw goes into center field, backed up by Murphy, and holding at second is Hurdle. So Mike, who turned in one fine play earlier, the Gold Glove winner in 1980, throws that one away into center field to put men in first and second.
Well, here's the bunt, and it's not a particularly good bunt, especially on AstroTurf. Norris gets to it. He lets it go. It just happens to be a little bit off balance. But here you'll see Oakland's fine outfield. Murphy anticipated the play. He's in there. You don't want the error, of course, but at least the runner didn't go to third.
Norris charged with an error, and so the Royals have the game's first threat. Runners at first and second, and nobody out. And the number 9 hitter, UL Washington. The A's expecting the bunt. Spencer in shallow at first, and Gross at third. And UL fouls it away. 0-1.
And he's trying to bunt the ball down to Gross at third base. That way the runners can advance.
And he does, but foul. So Norris with 2 strikes on Washington, with Hurdle still at second. Watson at first, nobody out in the bottom of the third inning. The game scoreless. The A's still expecting the 2 strikes, still expecting the bunt with Gross even with a bag at third. And Spencer in front of the bag at first. Look at where Spencer is aligned. McKay, the second baseman. The 0-2 pitch up there to swing away and takes high. Ball 1. 1-2. 1-2 pitch is swung on and hit in the air to center field. Murphy is there and has it for the out. 1 down in the third inning. And Willie Wilson coming up. Wilson popped out in the first. Wilson tries to drag his way on, but Norris is down off the mound in a hurry and then pulls Spencer off at first base. So Willie Wilson, not wanting to sacrifice that time, but trying to bunt his way aboard, is successful, and the Royals have him loaded up, and that will provoke the first visit of the day from Billy Martin.
Here's the fastball away, and he makes a great bunt. And you can run like him, there's just no way you can defend that play. Here Norris gets to the ball. Quick release, but just not quick enough.
So they're loaded up. Billy Martin out at the mound. Frank White will be coming up with the bases loaded and 1 out in the third inning. When Martin goes to the mound, he doesn't pay any courtesy calls. He reminds me of your man, Mr. Weaver. He's got something to tell you.
Well, I think that's really usually the only time a manager should come to the mound. And I'm sure what he told Mike Norris was, hey, have the bases loaded, but 1 good pitch, you're out of the inning. We don't want any big innings because we have a kind of ball club that can come back and score some runs. And go get them.
Hurdle was at third. It's Watson at second, and Willie Wilson at first base with 1 out at the bottom of the third inning. No score. Grounded down to Groves. He comes home with it to Heath for 1. They settle for the 4th there. So the bases remain loaded with 2 down now. White, of course, can run. Groves on that ball. I'm sure the thought enters your mind as the ball leaves the bat. Maybe he's going to go to second and try for an inning-ending double play. Instead, he comes home to make sure they get the out there. And there are 2 away.
Probably forgot Brett was up next. That's a decision you have to make. If you think you can get 2, you go to second and try to get out of the inning. But obviously, he didn't think that that was the case.
So Brett standing in with the bases loaded. Low for a ball. 1-0 the count. Brett grounded out in the first. His figures for the season: His 6th home run, by the way, came yesterday in that extra game at Cleveland. Royals won it 9-0. 2-0 the count.
Looks like a pretty good pitch. A low screwball. Well, he got George out the first time on a screwball, and it seems like he's going to stay with that pitch.
2-2 to Brett. Is hit high in the air to shallow right center field. Murphy coming in along with Armis, and it's Murphy, the quarterback of the outfield, who makes the catch. Calling Tony off, and in the 3rd inning, the Royals squander a threat, leaving the bases loaded. Go to the 4th. Oakland nothing, Kansas City nothing. As we go to the 4th inning, Ricky Henderson leads off for Oakland. 0-1 the count. No score, Game 1, American League Western Division Series. Best of 5, winner to face the Yankee-Brewer winner. That series beginning tomorrow night. You'll see it at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. A lot of people in the American League feel that Ricky should win the MVP award this year, Jim. Would you agree?
Well, he's awfully valuable to this ball club. How he wasn't on the All-Star team is beyond me. But I do know that if he doesn't have a good series, I don't think they can win. I mean, he's just that important to this ball club, and he does so many things, not only offensively but defensively. I mean, if you're a leadoff hitter, you want to make the opposing pitcher throw as many pitches as you possibly can. He does that. He can steal a base anytime he needs it. He's a great outfielder.
Look at how consistent he was this year, too.
I think he's been on base over 40% of the time. He's been right up there with the league leaders the last couple of years.
2-1 pitch is hit high in the air to center field. Amos Otis right there. Casually handles it. One away. This program being brought to you as an exclusive presentation of ABC Sports. Let's pause 5 seconds to allow our local stations to identify themselves. Dwayne Murphy, who has the only Oakland hit, facing Dennis Leonard. Murphy singled in the 1st and was quickly erased when Drumright hit into a double play. Murphy with a lot of key hits this season, led the league in game-winning runs batted in.
Well, it's probably because they pitched around Henderson so many times to get to him. And,
good point.
It's not a very good idea to do. He likes the fastball out over the plate, and that's the ball he can drive. He has excellent power to the opposite field.
3 balls, 1 strike to count. And Murphy is on. So Dwayne going down to first base. He's been Oakland's only base runner thus far. Was the single in the 1st and now the walk. And up comes Keith Drumright. Drumright hit into a double play in the 1st inning. Rookie designated hitter. He did see some action with Houston a couple of years ago. Played in 14 games with the Astros. Started this season at the A's AAA farm in Tacoma. Came up just prior to the strike. Then he was on the disabled list when play resumed. Then came off the list in September. Leg injury.
He doesn't have much power. He just sprays the ball around. And right now, of course, again, he'll be trying to take advantage of that hole with Aikens holding Murphy on. Try to hit the ball into right field and get that 1st and 3rd situation.
2-0 pitch. There goes Murphy. Bouncing ball to Aikens, and because the runner was going, they get only 1 out as Aikens makes the play at first. And Murphy advances to Dwayne Bunning, and they stay out of a possible double play. 2 down. Tony Armis is the batter. Struck out in the 2nd inning. Here's the case, Jim, where if you're a pitcher, even though a left-hander's on deck and you're working to a right-hander, you've got first base open, and you don't want to give Armis a chance to beat you necessarily with Gross on deck.
No, but I also don't want to have a big inning, and the way I've always pitched is if he gets a single, it's 1-0. If I walk him and the next guy hits a home run, it's 3-0, and both physically and psychologically, you're a little bit more out of the ball game. I think right now he'll just try to, like he said he was going to do, run the fastball in on him and make a good pitch with his breaking ball away. And if he doesn't, then he'll try to get Gross out.
1-0 pitch is in the dirt, blocked by Watson, and the count 2-0. 2-0 pitch, swing and a miss, and the count 2-1.
Well, that's the book on Armas to kind of go up and in. We pitched him inside so much this year that I think he looked for the ball, and I think you'll see from the center field camera that he kind of puts his foot in the bucket, so to speak. He opens up, and if the ball doesn't get in far enough, he's so strong that he can get to that ball, and that's why he hit 35 home runs last year and 22 this year. It already looks like they're going back up and in.
Fouled away. Diaz report to fan accommodation.
2-2 pitch. Bouncing ball to third. Brett up with it. Goes to first, and Akins can't dig it out. Juggling, and everybody is saved. So Brett throwing one in the dirt, and Akins unable to handle it. Oakland with runners at first and third, and prolonging the inning for Wayne Groves.
Not particularly difficult play. I think the only knock on George Brett is that sometimes he's a little bit inconsistent with his throwing. And you see, Akins really made a nice play just keeping the ball. And you'll see the ball bounce in the dirt.
Akins at least able to stay in front of it anyway.
Well, I think that's probably what he had in mind because of the runner going from second.
So Murphy has to stop at third as Willie keeps it close to him, and Wayne Gross is the batter. Gross flying to right in the second inning. Gross drilling it foul down the right field line. 0-1 the count. A good opportunity for the A's to cash in here, because in 5 or 6 minutes you're going to have the shadow line between the plate and the mound. Make it very difficult for the hitters. 2-1 the count. You can see from our high home shot right there exactly where the shadows are. The sun's going down back of home plate. So in just a few minutes, the pitcher will be in the sun and the batter in the shade.
What the hitters say that does, it makes the ball a little bit grayer, a little bit darker, and also it's tough to really pick up the spin. You throw a lot of breaking balls, it makes it very difficult.
That's a situation, of course, that's really peculiar to October because of the positioning of the Earth and Sun at this time of year. We've seen it for years. 2-1 the count. Gross hitting a high fly ball to deep right center field, and gone. Wayne Gross getting a little bit of assistance from the breeze. When it left the bat, it did not look like it would carry out of here, and then Otis and Hurdle just kept going back and running out of room. And so the error by Brett prolongs the inning, and the A's cash in and lead it 3-0.
There you'll see a fastball up, kind of middle of the plate up, and Wayne Gross, who you said, Al, was very strong, goes out and gets it. I think that was wind dated, but it counts.
So the A's are on top on only their second hit off Leonard, and Jim Spencer the batter. 2-1 the count. The inning started with Henderson flying out, then the walk to Murphy. Murphy was running on a pitch when Drumright hit what might have been a double play had Dwayne not been going. They settled for the out, and the error by Brett, and the home run, and Spencer gets Goodwood to deep right field. Hurdle goes all the way back, leaps up and can't make the play. Hurdle up with the ball to get it back in, and Spencer winds up at second with a double.
The catcher, Mike E.
Well, he goes back, and I think he doesn't quite get to the wall. The thing an outfielder wants to do is get back to the wall as soon as he can so he knows where it is and then make his leap. He's a little bit away from the wall, and of course the ball was hit extremely hard.
And a little bit more room than he thought, so a double for Spencer with 2 down in the 4th inning. And Mike Heath the batter. Heath grounding out in the 3rd. Dennis Leonard trying to get out of the inning as Heath pops a foul and back out of play. 1-1 the count. Kickoff play is on, and a close play, but Spencer dives back into the bag.
Well, nice throw to second. He just barely gets back, and what this does is you may not pick the runner off, but what it does, it keeps him a lot closer because he was almost out.
Spencer with a shortened lead now, and the 1-1 pitch is hit high in the air, down the left field line. Brett giving chase along with Wilson, and there's confusion and a collision, and the ball drops untouched. So Brett and Wilson, two obviously key Royals, both going down hard. It looked like George was going to back off at the last moment, and then there was no way to avoid the collision, and down they go as Mickey Cobb, the Royals trainer, comes rushing out to the area. Hopefully a case of just Willie having the wind knocked out of him.
I think what happened is the ball blew back in. The wind is blowing to right field. Brett doesn't think he's going to have a chance, and then they just run into each other.
Brett and Wilson, another look. That's exactly right. The wind pushing it back in on the ball. It looked like it was headed for maybe the third or fourth row of the seats initially.
And now you see George running along parallel to the stands.
So the two going down in a heap. That's Wilson, who appears to be the more damaged of the two. Brett is still seated up against the wall. So both men still down on the collision. We'll take another look on the pop foul hit off the bat of Mike Heath.
Well, it's probably the most dangerous play in baseball when you have an infielder going back and an outfielder coming in. They're so intent on getting the ball, and neither one knows if either has a chance to get it. And
well, for the Royals, it's the worst of collisions. You don't like to see anybody hurt. And for Kansas City, two very key people coming together. That's Brett, who, as I say, appeared to be the least injured of the pair, and Willie Wilson, hopefully with just the wind knocked out of him, getting the hand as he gets back up. And both men will return to their respective positions. A little worse for wear. So Willie Wilson take a little bit extra time to regroup. Hauser, meanwhile, still visiting with Brett and Frank White. With Oakland on top 3-0 in the fourth inning. So Leonard looking in for the sign as play resumes. Checking Spencer, and the 1-2 pitch got him swinging. But in the inning, the A's come up with 3 runs, 2 hits, 1 error, 1 left. Middle of the fourth inning, 3-0 Oakland. Temperature in the 60s at Royal Stadium in Kansas City. Had some rain here yesterday. That postponed a scheduled Oakland workout. The Royals, of course, had their own workout in Cleveland, having to play the extra game. And at least they avoided the second half of what would have been a doubleheader by winning 9-0 at Cleveland yesterday, and thus becoming the second half champions. Royals trail 3-0 as Willie Aikens leads off in the bottom of the fourth inning, to be followed by Amos Otis and Hal McRae. Aikens singled his first time up, takes a strike. Aikens hits a high drive to right center field. He got under it a bit, so it may stay in, and it does as Murphy makes the catch. Normally, there's a great deal of communication in the Oakland outfield.
Center fielder.
Murphy, as I mentioned before, is the quarterback, and perhaps Norris didn't hear him calling him off, if indeed he did.
well, normally you do let the center fielder take the ball, and that's what he did. And you can see the Oakland outfield. They don't play as shallow as they normally do here on AstroTurf, but they play the shallowest outfield of any team in baseball. And I was talking to Lee Walls, their outfield coach, and he said they at least take 100 ground balls and fly balls a day. You know, things like this don't come by accident, and I think they made one error all year on a ground ball. So they have a superb outfield.
Otis takes a strike. And collisions and even brushing incidents like the last one with Murphy and Armas are very rare in the Oakland outfield. I know Murphy and Henderson made contact only one time all season long. One and one. Foul back in the count, 1-2. 2-2 pitch. Down he goes. Out on strike. And Hal McRae coming up. And on the subject of the managerial switch, we spoke with McRae earlier.
Hitter, Hal McRae.
Earlier in the season, there was much rumbling and much apparent discontent with Jim Fry. Dick Hauser comes in. Things appear to be tranquil right now. Has that been overblown, or has Dick really made that big of a difference with his team?
Well, I think he's made a difference in that he let us go back to our old style. But Jim did a good job. We just didn't play well. He had a style of managing, which is a little different from Dick. But we won that way last year. This year, we couldn't win that way.
What's the difference?
The difference was last year we got a lot of hitting. Everything we did was right. This year we struggled a little bit at the plate, so we needed to make things happen. When Dick came, he gave the players a chance to make things happen.
Al McRae with a count 0-1 takes outside. 1-1. You know Jim Fry. You've known him for years, Jim. As you take a look at the man who replaced Fry, Dick Hauser, the 1-1 pitch. Inside McRae saying, well, you know, Jim did a good job, which is, I suppose, easy to say once the guy has left.
Well, I don't think the only thing the criticism that probably is true is the fact that maybe he didn't change. Last year, George Brett said they hit 290. This year, they were hitting like 260 or so. Last year, they ran. This year, they didn't, but they didn't have anybody on base. And Jimmy's a great baseball man. He's a great guy. And Joe Burke, the general manager, said he was the right manager, but just at the wrong time. And I think there's a lot of pressure to win here in Kansas City because they have a track record of doing so, and they just expect them to be pretty good.
There's Murphy angling himself against the sun in center field to take in McRae's drive. And the fourth inning is history. Go to the fifth, 3-0 A's. So we go to the fifth inning now in Kansas City with the A's on top, 3-0. Dave McKay to lead things off for Oakland. Fred Stanley, Ricky Henderson will follow. The 8, 9, and 1 hitters facing Dennis Leonard. McKay grounded out in the third. Oakland leading 3-0. 0-1. Look at Willie Wilson, who was shaken and dazed in left field, but none the worse for wear right now. George Brett, same situation. 0-2 pitch. Fly ball to left field. Wilson waves Washington away and makes the catch for the out. One down in the fifth inning. Fred Stanley coming up. Flied out in the third.
The shortstop, Fred Stanley.
A strike, 0-1. These two teams met 6 times during the regular season, each winning 3. The A's did not pay a visit here until last weekend. Shallow right field. Hurdle coming on and makes the catch. 2 up, 2 down. And Ricky Henderson, the batter. Henderson is twice fly to center. Bouncing ball to the left side. UL Washington up with it and throws him out to his side of the side. 3 up, 3 down. 4.5 in the books. It's 3-0 Oakland. Coming up this Saturday at 12:30 Eastern Time, Oklahoma against Texas. The Sooners and the Longhorns. Always a beauty. From the Cotton Bowl, Texas going in ranked number 3. The Sooners 10th ranked in the country on NCAA college football this Saturday. The Fountain in Kansas City with the appropriate audio. The sound of the water cascading. Beautiful facility. Part of the Truman Sports Complex, Arrowhead Stadium, right across the parking lot. Home of the Kansas City Chiefs. Bottom of the fifth inning. Clint Hurdle takes a strike in the count 0-1. Game 1 of the American League Western Division Series. Oakland leading 3-0 on a 3-run homer by Wayne Gross in the 4th. Hurdle rips it into right center for a base hit. Armin cuts it off. He had waved off Murphy as the two converged on that ball to make the play and get it back in. Hit number 3 for Kansas City. This telecast presented by Authority of Major League Baseball, intended solely for the private, non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or the use of the pictures, descriptions, and the caps of this game without the express written consent of Major League Baseball is prohibited. Watson takes up an in, ball 1, 1-0. 2-0 the count. And now Norris starting to dig himself a hole with a count 3-0. And that provokes visit number 2 from number 1, Billy Martin.
Well, I think the last thing Billy wants Mike to do is to let them back into the game. And he made a bad pitch to Hurdle. Hurdle's a low fastball hitter, and he threw him a low fastball, which he singled into right center. And then now he's 3-0 and has not thrown a pitch with any kind of idea at all. And I'm sure Billy wants to go out and see if he feels all right.
3-1 pitch to John Watson is inside. So the Royals have runners at first and second with nobody out. Similar situation taking place in the 3rd inning when the Royals came up empty. Had 2 on, nobody out. And here's UL Washington. And the last time Washington came up, he tried to bunt twice and couldn't and wound up flying out to center. UL lays it down this time, and it's a good bunt and no play. So they're loaded up with nobody out, and Willie Wilson coming to the plate. Norris in trouble. I spoke with his catcher, Mike Heath, earlier.
Screwball. So all of a sudden he went to the fastball more in his last regular season outing. He pitched a superb game against Toronto. What about catching Norris in the playoffs?
Well, Michael has an outstanding screwball, probably, the best I've seen. I haven't seen too many, but it seems like he's lacking a little bit in his screwball this year. I don't know where it's at, but I think he has to throw more fastballs, especially to the right-handed hitters, to keep them honest with the screwball. So I think he has an excellent fastball, and he has to work that in a lot more than what he has been.
The infield fly rule in effect as Willie Wilson pops out on the first pitch. Fred Stanley making the catch. So Wilson with the bases loaded and nobody out going after the first pitch. And popping out, the bases remain loaded, and with 1 down, we'll take a look at Frank White. White has grounded out twice, 0 for 2. In the bullpen, first activity of the day, Tom Underwood, who started and pitched brilliantly against Toronto last week, final week of the regular season, up and throwing back of Norris. Line drive speared by Gross to second for the double play. He gets out of it. So the Royals squander another threat in the 5th inning. Another look as Gross makes the catch and throws to McKay for the
high
double play.
Not a very good pitch, but probably the second best pitch in baseball, other than the triple play.
At the end of 5, 3-0 Oakland. Back at Kansas City after this word from our local station. In the 6th, Dwayne Murphy to lead things off. Curve for a strike, 1-1. One thing the A's were concerned about, Jim, coming in here to a small extent, playing on AstroTurf, a surface on which they have played very infrequently this season.
Well, they love the Oakland Coliseum, which is natural turf, and I would think it would change the way they play here, but apparently they're going to play the same depth in the outfield, and you don't get too many bad hops on AstroTurf.
Murphy grounding out to White. Actually, we're calling it AstroTurf. To be more specific, it's Spartan turf. And I guess the difference, basically, it's a little less grainy than your AstroTurf surface. It is somewhat quicker than most AstroTurf fields. Keith Drumright, the batter. Drumright has hit into a double play and grounded out. Game 1, best of 5 American League Western Division Series. Oakland on top. 3-0. Game 2 here tomorrow. Off day on Thursday. And then out to Oakland for the balance of the series. Game 3 on Friday. 4 if necessary Saturday. 5 if necessary on Sunday. Drumright tries to bunt his way on, but Watson out in front of the plate to throw him out. Aikens reaching across to make the grab on the bag, and there are 2 down. Al Michaels and Jim Palmer in Kansas City. Howard Cosell along with Keith Jackson and Don Drysdale will be with you from County Stadium in Milwaukee tomorrow night for the first game of the Eastern Division Series. 2 down, Tony Armas struck out, reached on an error, fouling it away. 0-1.
Big error, as it turned out to be. And Dennis Leonard's doing what he has to do. You never like to give up a 3-run home run, but this is where mental toughness comes in, and looks like he's back to making good pitches, and he'll have to keep his ball club in the game by just not really allowing them to score again.
1 ball, 1 strike to count. Armas in the shade. Leonard in the sun. That not only creates problems for the various hitters, but also for our engineers, video-wise, with the shading involved. 2-1 the count. A good illustration there from our low home camera. Tony Armas, as you can see, a blazing start in April, and then a downward curve. He had the flu earlier in the month of September, and that weakened him for a stretch. Not there. Line drive, base hit to left field. Willie Wilson to get it back in. Tony Armas aboard, and that's hit number 4 off Dennis Leonard.
Baseman Wayne Gross.
Well, here you'll see just a low fastball, and like any power hitter, likes to get his arms extended. Brett doesn't really have a chance to react.
Armas aboard with 2 down. Gross the batter. Wayne flying to right in the 2nd, and then homering to right in the 4th. Grounded sharply to the hole and through for a base hit. Armas is on his way to 3rd as the throw comes into 2nd. Wayne Gross now 2 for 3, and with 2 down, the A's threaten again with runners at 1st and 3rd. And Jim Spencer coming up. Aikens that time holding Armas on, and the ball almost flipping Tony as it went by.
Well, this is what Gross is trying to do. Use that hole, which he did. That ball probably would have been an out if Aikens didn't have to hold the runner on.
Billy Connors, the Kansas City pitching coach, out to the mound. They're stirring around in the Kansas City bullpen. That's Rich Gale, who was a starting pitcher at the outset of the season, getting up to start throwing along with Atlee Hamaker, the rookie left-hander. Leonard was sailing at the outset. Dennis, as Jim Palmer mentioned, with what appeared to be great stuff through 3. Then the transgression by Brett, the error in the 4th inning, kept the inning alive, and Gross took him out. Here in the 6th, he gets the first 2 batters. Armas and Gross have singled, and Spencer 1 for 2 the batter. 3-2 pitch is a broken bat, fly ball to left field. Wilson started back, now comes in, and it's time to make the play. No runs, 2 hits, and 2 men left on. At the end of 5 1/2, it's still Oakland 3, Kansas City 0. Brett, Aikens, and Otis, the 3, 4, and 5 hitters in the bottom of the 6th. Bouncing ball to the right side, fielded by Spencer, shovels to Norris. 3-1 in the book. 1 out.
The first baseman, Willie Aikens.
Aikens has singled and fly to center. Count even now at 1-1. 1-1 pitch. In for a strike, and the count 1-2. Got the inside corner to the chagrin of Aikens, who doesn't believe that call. Just a stare at Maloney, and then back to the dugout.
Center fielder, Eamon Otis.
Well, if you're going to throw Aiken's fastballs, you want to keep them up and in. And here with a 1-2 count, he makes a good pitch. Whether the ball is looked a little bit inside, at least Willie thought so, but in the general area.
2 down. Amos Otis is the batter. Checks his swing, and the pitch misses, ball 1. Heath wants an appeal at first. Don't get the call. 1-0 the count. 3 runs, 5 hits, and 1 error for the A's. No runs, 4 hits, and 1 error for the Royals. That sounded like aluminum as it left the bat. Fly ball to center field. Murphy is there and makes the catch to retire the side. 3 up and 3 down for Norris. Royals gone to the 6th, on to the 7th we go, with Oakland still leading Kansas City 3-0. Royal Stadium in Kansas City, ballpark opening in 1973, one of the very few modern stadiums in the country to be built exclusively for baseball. No multi-purpose facility here in KC. When they did it, they built the park for the Royals and the park across the parking lot for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Royals 0-10, as you can see in home games here this season, when they have trailed after 6, and that is the case right now as we go to the 7th inning. A's on top 3-0. That's Dave McKay who will follow Heath, standing in to lead things off, and then we'll see Stanley. Dennis Leonard working on the bottom 3 in the batting order. 0-1 on Heath. Mike has grounded to short and struck out. 0-2. Hit in the air, shallow left field and down the line as Willie Wilson moves over, goes into foul ground, and makes the catch. 1 down. Dick Hauser in the Kansas City dugout. I talked to Billy Martin earlier about Dick.
Assess the Kansas City club, a team now being managed by a man who worked under you.
Well, I think he's a fine manager. I think he's a great manager. I think he's Dick Hauser is going to go down and be one of the best managers of baseball, as far as I'm concerned. They're a fine ball club. They're a running club. They've got good hitting. They've got power. But the question mark, as far as I'm concerned, is in their pitching. Their 2 left-handed starters have to go against us, and our right-handed hitting is very strong. So I think we're going to go after them. If we beat Leonard the first game, they have a chance of really hurting us.
He has Leonard beaten right now in the 7th inning, 3-0. Dave McKay, 0 for 2, hits a bouncing ball to the hole, but White is there to fill up the gap. Throw him out, 2 down. Kurt Stanley.
The shortstop, Fred.
Well, this is why Frank White wins Golden Gloves. He doesn't have to worry about a bad hop on AstroTurf. He just goes over. He has excellent speed and has plenty of time to throw him out.
Stanley is 0 for 2. Takes a strike on the outside corner. Stanley, who played for Billy Martin with the Yankees. Billy likes to go after guys that he knows and have played for him. Mickey Klutz would be another example. He's got Jim Spencer. Made the deal for Jim. Cliff Johnson would be another. Call, strike 3. Stanley upset over the call. As the pitch, according to Maloney anyway, gets the outside corner. Getting the
here you'll see an outside, looks like just a fastball that looks like it's off the plate, but George Maloney thought it was a strike.
It's the one event that more than any other brings out the youth in all of us. Baseball fever. Catch it. It's worth it.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
7th inning stretch here in Kansas City. On a windy day, temperature in the 60s. A reminder coming up tomorrow, game number 2 in this series. Steve McCanny will be on the mound for Oakland. Mike Jones will work for Kansas City at 4 o'clock Eastern time. And then the American League Eastern Division Series beginning tomorrow night from County Stadium in Milwaukee, the Brewers against the Yankees. Hal McRae in the bottom of the 7th inning takes inside for a ball. 1-0. McRae, Hurdle, and Watson. 3-0 Oakland. A strike. 1-1. Norris coming off a shutout last week. Now with 15 consecutive scoreless innings. Fouled away. And the count 1-2. 2-2 the count.
Well, as you know, Al, they don't have many guys hit the ball out of the ballpark. Willie Aikens, as you said, is the only guy with double figures. For them to win today, they're going to have to get some base runners because, as Dick Hauser said, as George Brett said, for them to play the running game, they have to have the guys on base, and that's something they didn't do the first half of the season.
3-2. The Royals have had 2 great chances today. First and second, nobody out in the 3rd. Washington couldn't bunt the runners along, but then he did to load the bases in a similar situation in the 5th. And the A's were able to pull off a double play. Hit in the air to left field. Ricky Henderson is over to make the play. 1 gone. 6 straight set down by Mike Norris, and up comes Clint Hurdle. Sold out at Kansas City. Royals, as we mentioned, 5th time in 6 years in postseason play for the A's, of course. A team that formed a dynasty in the early 70s. This is Oakland's first postseason competition since 1975 when they lost to the Red Sox in the playoffs. A strike on 1. Hurdle obviously not particularly upset. Able to work up a grin in the 0-1 pitch. 1-1. The crowd, though, is getting all over Maloney now.
Well, George, I'll tell you what, he handles Earl Weaver better than any umpire I've ever seen. He goes way back with her.
Fly ball to center field from Murphy. 2 gone in the 7th inning. 7 in a row set down by Norris.
The catcher, John Watson.
And up comes Watson. Two pitch is a little one-hopper back a second. Stanley makes the play and gets him. A little quiver on one hop back of the bag, and Watson is gone as the Royals go down here in the 7th inning.
It looks like a ball right off Lofton's 5th, and Stanley going hard to his left gets the ball beyond. I think probably the only reason he threw him out is because he got jammed and he didn't get out of the box as well as he could. Close play, but looks to me he's out.
So at the end of 7, 3-0 Oakland, back in Kansas City after this word from our local station. Ricky Henderson fly to center twice and grounded to short. 0-1 the count. Now you've got a situation where Leonard stands in the shade. The backdrop for the batter is in the sun, and there's a split of sunlight right out in front of home plate with the batter's box in the shadows. Not the loveliest of situations for a hitter. Henderson running up to bunt, letting it go by, and taking what he didn't think was a strike, but Maloney did. Maloney must also have a pretty good sense of humor, I would think.
Oh, he does.
He's gotten Hurdle and Henderson to smile as Ricky hits one right back to Leonard. One away. One out, and Murphy coming up.
The center fielder, Dwayne Murphy.
Hit high in the air to deep right field, and Hurdle will watch this one wind up in the bullpen and well back in the pen. Dwayne Murphy, who hit 15 during the regular season, teeing off on a 3-2 offering from Dennis Leonard, and the A's move out on top by a score of 4-0. And Royal Stadium in Kansas City is silent right now as Murphy stretches the advantage. 4-0 Oakland.
Belt high fastball out over the plate, and that's the problem of getting behind early. You just can't afford to give up any other runs. It really makes it difficult to win. They don't seem too terribly excited.
1-0 the count on Drumright. In the bullpen, Rennie Martin. Atlee Hamaker throwing. The 1-0 pitch is fouled away. National League Series between Los Angeles and Houston getting underway tonight. The other series in the National League, Philadelphia, Montreal, commencing tomorrow as Drumright looks at a strike. American League East beginning tomorrow night. We'll have it for you at 8 Eastern time as the Yankees take on the Brewers at County Stadium, Milwaukee, in postseason competition for the first time in the history of that franchise. Though not the city, of course, as Drumright lines one into left field for a base hit. Hit number 7 on Dennis Leonard. Dick Hauser, watching his team play very well in September, but today, the error by Brett, opening up the gates, and then 2 squandered opportunities in the 3rd and in the 5th as the A's move out to a 4-0 lead, and Armas stands in 1 for 3. On 1 the count.
It really seems like Tony Armas came out of nowhere. I mean, he was with the A's for about 4 years and only played every once in a while, and then all of a sudden last year he looked up, he had 35 home runs.
Armas came over from Pittsburgh in a deal that turned out to be a most successful one. Brett charges field and throws him out. And there are 2 down. 2 away with Drumright advancing to second, and Gross will be the hitter.
It was just a high chopper. Here's George exhibiting. He has a strong arm, just sometimes a little bit inaccurate. Makes a nice play there, though.
To follow up on what you mentioned before about Armas coming over from Pittsburgh in the same deal that brought Rick Langford to Oakland in 1977. That was a deal that was made by Charlie Finley, of course, who has been the object of much derision and scorn in Oakland for the way that he handled the ball club and promoted the ball club, or didn't promote the ball club, and of course almost sold the team to Marvin Davis of Denver a couple of years ago. New local ownership coming in, but you got to hand it to Charlie when it comes to making deals. The 1-0 pitch is outside, and the count 2 balls and no strikes. Had a graphic a moment ago that showed that Wayne has not been particularly proficient in clutch situations, but that's not the case today. He has been the big man, not only with a 3-run home run, but started a double play that got him out of trouble in the 5th inning. To right center field, and Hurdle makes a running catch as the wind helps carry it. But Gross is gone, and the sign is retired. In the 8th inning, Murphy gets a home run to stretch the advantage. 2 hits, ended 7.5, 4-0 A's. Bottom of the 8th inning at Kansas City in Game 1 of the American League Western Division Series. Oakland 4, Kansas City 0. Mike Norris has gone all the way for the A's. He'll be facing UL Washington, Willie Wilson, and Frank White. The Royals' last threat coming in the 5th. Since then, Norris has sailed through the order. He's retired 8 straight. Washington, the last man to reach against Mike, bunting for a base hit in the 5th inning. By the mound, backhanded by McKay. His throw in the dirt. Spencer can't handle it. So Kansas City trying to bounce back and getting a break here as McKay's throw unable to be handled by Spencer at first base.
Well, here's a perfect example of what speed does. You have to hurry, and McKay rushes his throw and doesn't make a good one.
They charge an error to McKay. Second Oakland error of the game. And Willie Wilson comes up 1 for 3. Hit in the air to center field. Murphy had trouble initially, but recovers and makes the catch. Sun's still tough. One out of the 8th inning as Willie Wilson goes after the first pitch, and Frank White comes up.
A lot of examples of Kansas City hitting the ball hard today, but at people. Frank White, big play, lining out to Gross for the double play to end the 5th inning. Seems that most of the balls they are hitting hard are at somebody, and of course when you have that happen, you don't score very many runs.
Washington at first base with one down. 1-0 the count on White. Two 2-0 now. Now. Norris thus far today has walked 2. And he has struck out 2. Behind here with Brett waiting on deck. Martin, and in the foreground, pitching coach Art Fowler. And White is aboard. So Frank White knocks down to first base. UL Washington advancing to second. And George Brett, who is 0 for 3 today, coming up. Oh, and 1 the count. White picking a most opportune time to break that string. Putting runners at first and second with 1 down. 0 and 2. Norris seems to be the kind of guy that just loves to teeter on the brink of disaster. And they come back and get him.
It does seem like that, but he was very lucky in the 5th inning when he made a bad pitch to White, who lined out to Gross. He just threw 2 high screwballs to George Brett, who may not be seeing the ball that well because he pulled off both of them.
Outside here in the count, 1 and 2. In the bullpen, the left-hander is Tom Underwood, and the right-hander is rookie Dave Beard, who has been Martin's main short man of late. A man with limited major league experience. Billy, of course, does not have the type of hook that most managers employ. Rarely goes to the pen. As Brett hits one to left field, Henderson is there, gauging it, and makes the catch for the out. So 2 down as Brett can't deliver here. George now 0 for 4 on the day. And Willie Aikens will be the hitter. Bouncing ball to Spencer. He will do it himself, and the Royals squander another opportunity, leaving 2 here in the 8th. We'll go to the 9th inning at Kansas City with Oakland leading the Royals 4-0. And we'll return to Kansas City after this message and a word from our local stations. 9th inning, Lenny Martin comes out of the Kansas City bullpen to take Dennis Leonard's spot as Jim Spencer leads off with a fly ball to right field. Clint Hurdle drifts over toward the line and makes the catch for the out. 1 pitch and 1 gone in the 9th inning. Lenny Martin on in relief of Dennis Leonard, who went 8, gave up 4 runs, 3 of them unearned. 2 home runs by Gross and Murphy doing the damage. Leonard yielding 7 hits.
Pitched well. But not well enough.
Started out like he was going to throw a shutout. Heath the batter.
Well, he may have. Brett doesn't make that error, and Gross doesn't hit the home run because he wouldn't have been up that inning. I doubt if he would have thrown the ball down the middle to Murphy if the score was 0-0 in the 8th inning. But
0-2 the count on Heath.
Martin has good stuff. He has pretty good fastball on our radar gun in Baltimore, 88, which means it can add another 4 or 5. Good overhand curveball, which Spencer hit for the first out, and you just saw a good slider. He's tough on right-handers.
Reaches out, bounces it back toward the middle where White backhands, and Frank makes the play. So Frank White taking a base hit away from Heath. 2 down in the 9th inning.
Well, here's a slow curveball. He reaches out, and on AstroTurf, looks like the ball is going to be a hit, but White even almost gets in front of it, gets his balance, and makes a good throw.
2 down, Dave McKay. Hitless in 3 trips. He's trying to wrap it up in game 1. Then tomorrow they go with their winningest pitcher, Steve McCanny, against the rookie, Mike Jones, in game 2. Game 3, Friday, Rick Langford, Larry Gura. McKay reaching out and punching it into left field. An excuse-me single for Dave. His first hit, and the 8th overall on the day for Oakland.
The shortstop, Fred Stanley.
Fred Stanley will be the hitter. Dave McKay winning the job in September anyway at second base. It's incredible what Martin has done with his team. The outfield is solid, but what he's done with the infield, it's been a master stroke.
Well, I talked to Harry Carey before the game. He says, how can the A's win with that infield?
That's what everybody said.
Yeah, I know. They're anonymous, but they make very few mistakes. Picholo at shortstop's made 5 errors at shortstop, which is not very many for a shortstop. Stanley, I think, has made 3, so that's 8 errors at shortstop all year. McKay and Gross have their moments where they don't play that well defensively, but they play well together as a unit. And but I think really what it is, Al, is that they're so strong in the important positions. Heath is a good catcher, outstanding defensively, and they have such a great outfield, and their starting pitching is so superb that they can get away with maybe having an infield a little bit inferior than you should have.
Shallow right field where White handles Stanley's pop. Oakland gone in the 9th inning. And so the Royals come up in the bottom of the 9th with the A's in front 4-0. NCAA football this Saturday. Got football weather in Kansas City. Crowd not quite bundled up, but I don't know how that fellow's sitting there in church leaves today. It's chilly, in particular in the shade, temperature in the 60s. Brisk breeze, and not much to cheer about for the home folks thus far as the A's lead at 4-0 going to the bottom of the 9th inning. Amos Otis, Cal McRae, and Clint Hurdle facing Mike Norris, who has been outstanding throughout his career in this ballpark. Counting the 8 innings thus far today, in 48 2/3 innings lifetime in this park, Norris has allowed just 5 earned runs. High fly ball to right center field. Tony Armas is there. 1 gone. Royals without a hit since the 5th inning when Washington bunted for a single. Al McRae has flied out 3 times. 0 for 3. Our thanks once again to our statistician, Alan Roth, for his usual superb work. As game number 1 winds down, it's outside, ball 1. 1-0 the count. 2 clubs meeting again tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern. Game 2 this series. A strike on the outside part, and the count 1-1. Interesting, Otis would go up there and swing at the first pitch, Jim, down 4-0 in the 9th inning.
I think that's why McRae took the first strike.
2-1.
He could have missed the sign, though.
Well, you got to think that a guy who's been around that long is not going to swing at the first pitch down 4-0 in the 9th inning. You need base runners to try to
unlikely
get your way on in any fashion. Popped up in foul territory. Heath lost his glove at the plate and came back to the screen. If anybody could have made a play barehanded, it's that man who plays his position like an infielder. He's losing his glove, still giving chase anyway.
Well, he doesn't see where the ball's going, and then realizes, well, see, the bat hit the glove.
Tries to find the glove.
Oh, well,
has no time. If that's Aiden, he could have done it too.
Well, we have a catcher in Baltimore, Rick Dempsey, who's climbed screens. He plays exactly like he does. I mean, they just come out, put on the uniform, and play as hard as they can, as long as they can.
Very, very instrumental in the success of the A's this season. Unheralded.
Well, the A's have 2 good catchers then.
Yep,
Jeff Newman does a nice job, too. Probably doesn't throw as well as Heath, but has more power, maybe a little bit better hitter.
2-2 pitch is high. Well, what's going to happen, let's face it, the team that goes all the way is going to have 3 weeks of great national television exposure, people are going to find out about the Mike Heaths of the world. People they have not seen that much of before. Broken bat bouncer to third. Gross up with it. Throws him out, and Norris is 1 out away from closing the door in game number 1. 2 away.
Right fielder, Clint Hurdle.
Clint Hurdle. Walk, singled. Fly to center. Mike Norris, who pitched the shutout last week against Toronto, after staggering through the better part of the second half of the season. On the verge right now of blanking the Royals. Gets the corner for a strike. One and one.
So Billy giving him a sign, slow him down. I've been out in this situation. You want to get the game over with.
Rounded to first. This should do it. Spencer to Norris covering, and Mike goes all the way. And on home runs by Gross and Murphy, the Oakland A's take the first game of the Western Division Series, winning it by a score of 4-0 as Norris takes care of Dennis Leonard and the Royals. We'll be back in Kansas City right after this.